All right, I'm here with a great man, great father, great coach, a lot of greats. And I want to learn a little bit about who he is and the guess maybe the tricks of the trade. Maybe I don't know. There's a genius about this man that everybody's talking about, but I want to see if I can learn a little bit from this man. And I'm sure I can. I'm sitting here with no other than Bill Bassett. What's up, brother?
How are you?
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. We're actually sitting outside of your the high school where you coach, in the podcast trailer, and you have a tournament going on inside. You had a clinic today. You had a conference yesterday. Had a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, man.
No, for sure. We're excited. I'm glad you guys are here.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, let me first start off by saying I had, I don't know, 5, 6 of your guys sit on the couch today and just talk to me. And man, over and over and over again, your name came up. And it wasn't just your family. It was the other young men and what you mean to them. And I would go back to who's influential, who's taught you the most. What if you had a standout moment, it always revolved around Coach Bassett. And so, dude, you're doing incredible work. I know that I'm a coach as well. And I'm a father of a wrestler. I'm a father-in-law of a wrestler. I know that it's grueling and tough and hard, but man, I just want to encourage you to say you're changing young men's lives, and it's apparent from their character to their accolades to their schoolwork to their faith. They have said that you're a major part of all that. And so I just want to start off by saying, man, that's incredible.
I appreciate that. It makes me feel great, because that's the goal. I mean, we start out as, we want them to be great wrestlers, but at the end of the day, my goal is to make them a better person, make them a better, father someday, make them a better son, make them a better brother, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And we strive for that. To me, character's everything. Yeah.
And it shows. I mean, and in our sport, it's a tough sport, right? It's a fight every day. You literally have permission to get into an organized fight every day, and you bleed, you sweat, you cry. In character sometimes, we talked about this a little bit, but character in some sports, you can get away with a lot of stuff. You can kind of be not the greatest person, but still catch a football pretty well, be really fast. Wrestling has a way of exposing and showing character. And your young men, they're champions on and off the mat, man. So that's good stuff. When you teach this stuff, what are you telling them? How are you developing that type of person?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time. We talk before practice, just about good things, just being good character, good humans. Education's important.
Yeah.
Their faith's important.
Yeah.
We have Bible study every Friday morning. We all go to the same church for the most part. So that's important. So we talk about that at the beginning of practice. Then I lay out the practice plan, what it's going to look like, what we got coming up. And then at the end of practice, we spend a lot of time building their minds.
Okay.
To me, when I was growing up, the coaches would kind of talk about it. We never dug deep into it.
Correct.
To me, as a dad, as a coach, as a teacher, as a husband, as a person, you realize how important the mindset is, and confidence and just, so to us, you hear the wrestling mindsets talk about it all the time. Like, we spend a lot of time in the weight room. We spend a lot of time in the gym. We spend a lot of time at, wrestling rooms and stuff. But how much time do we spend on the mind? And we spend a lot of time on that.
And it shows. I mean, you got great humans in your room. And that's part of, like you said, I mean, when we were growing up, not much was said about it. But you're developing humans here, and I think it shows because you have so much in popular wrestlers now that have incredible minds, incredible faith, incredible families. And not saying that didn't happen back then, but there was not really there were a lot of hotheads in wrestling. There's a lot of anger in wrestling, and it kind of was a different mind back then. But it's just cool to see the development from the ground up. How did you get involved in wrestling? Were you wrestled and were you good? What's your story?
Yeah, so this is a pretty good football area.
Yeah.
For I would say local football area.
Sure.
It's not like this is Texas or Florida.
Right.
But when I was growing up, football was a big deal in our school.
Yeah.
And I was in karate from the time I was in first grade. And around third or fourth grade, karate started to get expensive. My parents did not have a lot of money. And it was almost one of those, well, hey, like your cousin wrestles and it's kind of free, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Would you want to do it? So at that point I tried it and I liked it. And then, I stayed in wrestling. It was one of those things that kind of took over for karate. And then whenever I started getting into football, like, the football coaches were really pushing it. So I kind of did it to get better at football.
Gotcha.
And then my dad didn't wrestle. No one in my family wrestled. So I was the first one coming up through. And I have a brother. He's also an assistant coach here at McCourt.
Yep.
He's a teacher. And so he was coaching, he was a little bit behind me. So when I ended up going back, whenever I graduated high school, I was in college, and I just, I started coaching. I just started coaching him because they needed somebody to roll around with and stuff. And I never went to college to wrestle. I was going to go play football, and it was one of those things I just really didn't have the size. I had, all the measurables, but I should say the unmeasurables, but I didn't have the measurables to really play football in college. I was a really good local, high school football player, but, wrestling, like I said, it wasn't something that, I don't know. We didn't have like we have now. Like there wasn't the club scene. There wasn't. It was kind of a 4-month sport for us.
Yeah.
We did that. Then we went in and played football. We played baseball in the summers. We didn't have clubs. We didn't. Like I said, my parents. We went to one wrestling camp.
Wow.
My kids. There's times where they've gone to 3 wrestling camps in a week.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things. We kind of did it just to get better at football, and football was our goal.
Okay.
My brother. He was a really good football player. He ended up playing college football. He's a little bit bigger than me, so he was able to do that.
Yeah.
But again, he wrestled the same way. He wrestled to get better at football, and it made us a lot better. It made us tougher, better people. And then when I got the chance to go back and coach, I started coaching football at first. Oh. And then they needed somebody to go in and coach my brother. So, and obviously it was, I was definitely a solid wrestler. Nothing like my sons, that's for sure. Like, I think they forgot about more than I knew at that point.
Sure, yeah.
But then when I started getting into coaching, still rolling around the high school kids, and, I was young, still, working out hard.
Yep.
And then I started with young guns, and I started just, again, rolling around with the high school kids, and just helping them out, just being an extra practice partner.
Yep.
And then that's when I really started to learn wrestling. And then I was with Jody and John. So, man, the first year that they were there, I started coaching with John Strittmeyer. That's Jody's brother. And I was his assistant. I was coaching the upper weights. And I didn't even think about having sons at the point, right? So that was 5-6 years later, I get married. And then that's when Bo came around. But, like, I was coaching the young guns before I even thought about having sons. So it's really cool.
Yes.
And then my son came, and the Strip Matter boys had a onesie already made up for Bo, and he was a wrestler before he was even born. I think he didn't even know it yet. But
so did you have any gaps in your coaching there, or did you stay on all the way through?
Yeah, pretty much. There was times I ended up going back. So I got into teaching. I have a computer science degree. Okay. And I really just fell in love with coaching and just being just helping kids. So then I ended up going back. My wife and we got married, and then she's an RN, and so I decided I was going to go back and I was going to be a teacher. So I did basically go back to school again. So I was like the untraditional student. So I continued to coach and stuff like that. But there were some times during my student teaching stuff where it was really hard to do both.
Oh, sure.
But then, so then I ended up coaching a bunch of local high schools around here. And then I got my first official coaching job as far as the head coach, probably about, 12 years ago. And then that's where I got my first teaching job. And then I did that for a while, and I was inner city here in Greater Johnstown. Okay. It was amazing. Like I taught a lot of kids from ground zero. Yeah. These kids were walking on as 9th, 10th graders, never did the sport. So it really made me better as a person, as a coach. And then when my boys came around, then it was one of those things where, I've always said this since day one. Hey, nothing against coaches, but my thing is my sons are first, right? So I'm never going to miss my son's events because I'm coaching or because something from me, right? I'm able to turn the page. The next chapter in my life was being the best dad I could be. Yeah. So when my sons came around, I was still coaching, and I can still remember. So Bo was 7, and this was kind of like, this was the moment, right? This was a defining moment where I was at in my life, and I was coaching, and we were districts, and then Bo had sectionals. And keep in mind, my goal was I want to be there, right? I want to be there for everything, and so in the morning, I remember he was real nervous because he knew that I had districts, but I thought I was going to have a gap where I could get down, watch him wrestle, get back to districts and all that. And my brother was my assistant, so it was going to be easy to cover. Yeah. Well, his event started to go a little bit faster than we thought. And, I remember my wife calling me and his voice was cracking. And I had full intentions on coaching a few more years, whatever. I had like 2 more years on my contract or whatever. And I remember like I didn't make it, and he won, and it was great and all that stuff. But it was just one of those defining moments. I got back to the gym where I was coaching high school, and I told my brother, I said, I'm done. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm gonna resign. Maybe I'll come back around, in a few years. I said, but I'm gonna resign. And that was tough. It was one of those things. But at the end of the day, you only get one shot at being the best dad you can be, and that's always been my goal. That's been my mindset.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna, put my kids on a back burner for me. My kids are my everything. So
yeah, no, that's huge. Now the dynamic of being dad coach, talk about that a little bit, because some people get it right and some people get it really wrong.
Sure. And I think that's one of those things. I've had a lot of good, I guess, mentors, right? So in Young Guns, there's been Spencer Lee and Nico Magaludis and all those guys come up through. And those guys were in high school when Bo was in elementary. So he was, he's put around them certain situations, and I would pick their dad's brains as much as I could.
Yeah.
And I something that stuck with me a long time was, Dan Magaludis. I think him and Nico have a really strong relationship, and that was something that, I asked him, like, how did you get this? And and he said, like, his goal is, he wants Nico and him to, have a relationship where, they're best friends, best friends on the mat, off the mat. Like, and it's one of those things. And honestly, like, I've never valued winning and losing, and I think of so many parents, they value winning and losing. And if their kid loses, it's like they lose.
Yeah.
To me, like, I'd rather have a stronger relationship with my sons.
Yeah.
I love my boys. Like, I would never, you hear some people, they're just downright nasty to their kids.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind. At the end of the day, if wrestling was taken away, I'm still, we still have an amazing relationship. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what to me, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And, not valuing winning and losing was so big, because they know if they go out and they wrestle as hard as they can, whether they win or lose, it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's when you really put things in perspective, it's all part of God's plan.
That's right.
My boys have suffered some losses, but you know what? Those losses have made them better. If they didn't take those losses, who knows? So we look at everything as a blessing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I know a lot of times, that's a lip service thing. You're not doing that, but a lot of people say winning and losing doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you can see the difference, right? You can see the difference the way the parent treats the kid. You can hear them in the stands and whatever. And it sounds to me like a lot of times when this had taken place, the parent hasn't fully lived out what their hopes for their own lives are, and they're almost living vicariously through their child. Sounds to me like you've truly put your children first, and your stuff's already sorted.
Yeah.
To the certain degree, you're saying, you know what, I'm going to let them do as they do, and I can see the product. I would say, Coach Bass just blowing air, but I see the product. Your kids still love wrestling. If you were the other dad, they wouldn't.
Right.
And we all see it too many times. With your program and you being the coach and things like that, if there's a formula? Is a formula for success at McCourt? Like, how do you guys produce what you're producing as humans and as wrestlers?
I think it's, we do a really good job. One, I got so many amazing assistants. I really do. Like, it's definitely just not me. There's so many people that I can name that, definitely put a lot of heart and soul into it. But what we do is we're trying to build a full person. We're trying to build a full, athlete, a full, just, the best human we can. So yes, wrestling is important. Strength is important. Mindset is important. Nutrition is important. So we're like, so our kids, they're all getting better in all these different areas, and we put in a lot of work. We do. Like, I would put our schedule, the rigor of our schedule, against anybody in the world. Senior level, college level, it doesn't matter. I mean, again, that's what our program has been built off of, is hard work.
Yeah.
As the years go on, and as the kids get a little bit older, and now they're let's be honest, they're becoming, young men. There are days where we have to tone it down a little bit. They do get sore, but when they were younger, we worked really hard. Now we have those days where it's a little bit less intense, but we still work so hard. And I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
You guys practice a lot and you go hard a lot. What's the mindset behind that versus like the whole, you're going to burn them out, your kids across the board, not talking about your blood, but the kids on the team, they show up to 4 or 5 practices a day, it seems like, and they want to be there. It's not coach making me come. They want to be there.
Right. I think like the secrets, there's no secret to it, right? They see that kids who are doing this are the ones that are winning.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, I mean, the kids who are winning Fargo, the kids who are winning Super 32, Ironman, making world teams, they're the ones that are putting in the most work.
Yeah.
So it's easy to see what the recipe looks like. You know, it's not as easy just to continue to show up, but they know if they do,
yeah,
there's, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You know, and these kids love wrestling. You know, they all come from amazing families with, they're very supportive. You know, and these families are all in. You know, in a sport of wrestling, you got to be wired a little bit different. It's different than baseball and football and team sports per se. Even though wrestling, it's definitely a team sport. It has an aspect to it, but I just think wrestling people are just wired different. You know, I think regular people look at us like, wow, these guys are nuts. And we are to an extent, but in a good way.
Sure.
You know, in a good way. A lot of times when kids are coming to the club and stuff like that, I take a big, hard look at the parents first.
Yeah.
Like, are these parents, are they ready for this? You know, is it something... are they going to go all in, or are they going to be, almost like a distraction to their kids? Because a lot of times I've seen it where kids love it, but maybe their parents aren't willing to go all in, or maybe there's, maybe the parents get a divorce and stuff like that. I've seen it, and that definitely hurts. Everybody's got to be on board. Mom's got to be on board, dad's got to be on board, grandma's got to be on board, and then we got to, that's the recipe for a lot of success.
Yeah, and it seems like from what I can tell, your crew is. From top to bottom, parents, staff, kids, they're all bought in, and I mean, even obviously this weekend, putting on what you guys are putting on out there, you got a lot of help and a lot of people doing the right things. Is that just a culture that you guys kind of sets the standard in wrestling? It spills over.
Yeah, for sure. I just they're all blue collar hard workers. And they're all like, they want the best for the program, and the kids are first. So, they know that we have to do these types of things. We just went to Oklahoma. I mean, that trip was very expensive, and it was fully, we got some donors and stuff, but we, for the most part, we fundraised for it. And they know, to continue to do this, we have to do things like this. And, when I mean, we had the conference event this weekend, so that was Friday, Saturday. Yep. Saturday, I mean, it was one of those things. We come straight down here, set up. We'll be here for the next few hours, tearing down, and they won't bat an eye at it. And then tomorrow morning, we'll be rolling at 5 a.m. whether, we have score or not with the weather. So,
yeah. So with that schedule thing, how are you able to stay? I mean, there's people that are like, hey, you should not be wrestling normal high schools. You guys should. What do you say to people that are kind of the naysayers of you guys, competing in a conference and doing, wrestling regular kids?
Sure.
What do you say to that?
I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, we try not to listen to the noise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, it kind of, if they're not talking about you, then realistically, I mean, you're not doing something.
That's right.
And I mean, that's the way we look at it. Like, we know, I mean, we talked a lot last week going into the conference that we knew, there's going to be people doing that, but we look at it as a blessing because, our goal is for every one of the kids to go Big 10 or go Big 12 and wrestle in these hostile environments. Every time they go to an away match, it's going to be a little bit hostile. People are going to be yelling at them, cheering against them, and I mean, to me, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that we have these situations already kind of built into our schedule already.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where we don't look at it as, we don't walk in there and shy away from it. We look into it as it's kind of fun. It's fun whenever you're winning and, and people don't like you and there's no reason whatsoever not to like you other than the fact that, you have a successful program. It's kind of like it's kind of a pat on your shoulder for just, doing something good.
Yeah. And obviously people want to say this or that. Oh, McCourt, they're recruiting. That's the only reason why they're good. Oh, they're this or they're that. I watch what you guys do here, and you win because of the culture, and you win because of the buy-in. You win because of those things. But I was talking to the boys about this earlier. It was like there was a time period there when I watched NFL football that I could not stand the New England Patriots because they were just so good. It's like I remember Tom Brady was one of the greatest to ever play the game, but I didn't like him because he was that good.
Yeah.
That's good company.
Yeah.
I reminded the boys too that the scripture says, Jesus said, remember, if they hate you, they hated me first. Like there's something about the enemy that likes to pit us against good, and so when you see something good like you guys are going on, they're going to find a reason. Yeah. But like you said, it's good company to be in.
It is.
And you can find motivation from that. You got a couple kids that are injured this year. And you got, a real strong team. How do you think this team compares to the teams that you've had in the past?
Yeah, I would hands down, this team's the best one we've ever had. And the craziest part about it is we have one senior.
It's wild.
So it's just unbelievable. And then the cool part is I just got a chance to watch my middle school pretty in-depthly, at our event. And man, they're looking good. They're looking
Really?
tough. Yeah. So, the cover, that's the thing. Like you see some of these programs, they show up and they got a couple really ambitious, coaches and dads. And then they kind of just,
Yes.
those kids go to college and I don't see that happening here. I don't, I just think this is going to go on for a while and people are all in and, the next generation is really hungry and they get a chance to be around Bo and Jackson,
Yes.
Sam every day and Melvin and the list goes on, and that's the beauty of it. It's something that, we don't we just keep reloading because we're building the next guys and the next guys are building the next guys.
So that brings up an interesting dynamic. You got one that's going to be graduating next year. Your other one will be a sophomore. And then Melvin will be a junior. So what's dad do? As they transition to college, I mean, is this a thought? I mean, it has to be, right? Like you said earlier, you don't miss.
Yeah. It's tough, right? I mean, it's one of those things where, my wife and I, we've been talking about that. It's logistical things is going to be, that's going to be hard.
Sure.
It's going to be hard, and so we, that's, Bo has some really hard decisions coming up.
Sure.
Melvin then the next year and then Keegan the next year.
Yeah.
As a dad, we have our thoughts, but at the end of the day, if they pick the furthest away in college, hey, that's
what it is.
Yeah, and I want the best for them. So if they feel right there, then, but it's one of those things. Logistically, it's going to be really hard. It is, but we're going to do everything that we absolutely can.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that we're going to be at every one of those matches?
Of course, you can't. Yeah.
But the beauty of it is, now with the Big Ten Network and the Big 12 and Flow, you can catch everything. I mean, I might not be there, but we're going to be obviously watching.
I was just watching my son-in-law, in here before you walked in, so it's hard not to be there, but we can be a part of it still.
Sure.
And I was just curious about that, but not, obviously Bo's going to go where Bo's going to go, but then I'm thinking to myself, you've obviously got other boys that are still in the program. Your desire is still to be coaching the high school level right now.
At this point, yes, it is. Yeah. I can honestly say, there's been some ideas, but my honest thing, my wife loves her job.
Yeah.
I love teaching at Bishop McCord, coaching at Bishop McCord. This place is amazing. It's been a blessing to our family. And, I love what we're doing here. I love I teach all day. Then we have wrestling practice right after, but then I could be having the worst day ever. But then as soon as we get down to, the compound and we get down there, it's I don't know. It's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And that's what people are like, oh, you teach too. You have a different job. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I grind all day, but the cool part about it is, I'm in school with my sons, my sons drive to school with me, when they're done and they're not driving to school with me, it might be a little bit harder, but right now I love it. It's fun. We enjoy it. I have the exact same schedule as them. For instance, if we're off school tomorrow, the boys already know we're going to have early practice and we're going to have it to so they already know that, so it's really cool that, I have that. My father, he's a construction worker. So, he, all summer long from dark to dark, we didn't see him. So there was a lot of times where, I didn't get to spend the time that my boys got to spend with me, and then my father passed away. Bo got to be around him a little bit, but he died early. My thing was the day that he died, I told my wife, I'm going to spend as much time with my boys as I can because you just don't know how much time you got.
No. And that's important. I was real close to my dad and he passed away unexpectedly young, but I'll tell you from that experience, because we did life together, we spent lifetimes of time together compared to what other father-sons dynamics do. And now, obviously he's not here. That is a wealth of experience that I have inside me that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world, no amount of money, no amount of anything. And so that I can true testament. Now, you do the same thing. It's when they're gone, you don't get any more time, and it's just, but it's important those times. And I can tell your boys, well, both said that his best friend's you. And that means something.
Sure.
It means we're doing some things right, and not a best friend in a bad way where my dad's my best friend. We do crazy stuff together. No, it's right. My dad's my best friend. He's also the man I look to for guidance. That's a huge thing. So mom's in the picture, right? Mom's in a house full of wrestlers. And I talked to her a little bit yesterday. I said, so Mom, have you gotten just a lot more tough? I said, because my mother was, the only female in the home. And she didn't realize how tough she was until she was around other women. And then she was like, whoa, you're pretty tough, you know. Is mom pretty, she hold her own?
She's amazing. She is. Yeah. She's one of the toughest ladies by far. She's amazing. She so she was a scorekeeper for my wrestling team when we were in high school. And so she kind of knew the sport a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, she kind of did it just to kind of hang out with me, I'm sure. But it's one of those things where then we had boys and she kind of got into it more. And now she's like, honestly, probably the best wrestling mom ever. You know, the only thing sometimes is she's one of, you know, where I got really good at just blocking out. Bo is amazing at just blocking people out. Sometimes, you know, that people can strike a nerve with her, and you know, but that's a mom. That's Mama Bear coming out, and you know what? At the end of the day, she'll always say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" I'm like, you know, go for it. If if that makes you feel better, you know, go get it. You know, so and she'll go after him. Trust me.
Yeah. My wife's the same way. It's like I kind of things roll off. I've heard so much, doesn't matter. Is Natalia? If somebody messes with any of us, it's on.
Yeah.
You know, it's on. When it comes to adversity, like obviously adversity is, you can't avoid it, but I believe that you can get better at suffering. You can in wrestling, we learn to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I think that spills over into life. Yeah. Not that it makes life completely easy, but when you go through stuff, it's kind of, you can remember, I went through this and I was on the mat and I was suffering. Do you feel like that adversity that wrestling teaches you helps you in life? And it is so, like, how have you seen that work?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, 100%. You know, that's the thing. Like, so I'm a teacher, coach, but then I run the compound sports performance.
Okay.
So I get athletes of all, you know, shapes and sizes, from little kids all the way up to college level athletes.
Gotcha.
In all sports. So I see like what, I don't want to say any sports in particular, but I see what other athletes, what their thresholds are and what they think a hard workout might look like compared to a wrestling workout. You know, and again, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, that, you know, we're wired different. Wrestlers are wired different. Yep. Wrestling families are wired different. But, you know, like 100%, I think that, you know, what the kids are gaining from the sport of wrestling is going to help them in every phase of their life. Yeah. You know, everything. And I say that all the time. Like someday, you know, you guys are going to be the CEO of your company, or someday you're going to be, you know, whatever it is, because of this hard work you're putting in. You learn to work hard. Yes. You know, your work ethic's a different level. Yep. You guys already know how to wake up early. You know, you're getting hours of work in before everybody else. When that translates into the business, or that translates into life in general, you're going to be light years ahead of everybody. Absolutely. And I think that's what this world lacks right now, is that hard work ethic. I think it's going away, you know, and I think now, like, wrestlers are going to continue to just keep getting better and better, you know, in life. Yeah, for sure. And I've said it, you know, and that's part of the reason why we started this podcast, is because wrestlers have a tendency to simplify the hard things, and we just grind through certain things. And it's like, I believe that that's the cheat code to success across the board. To be a good father, to be a good husband, whatever it may be, good CEO. It's finding a way just to work hard, be disciplined, and show up over and over and over again. Success happens in that formula. Yeah. And everyone wants to complicate it. They want it to be this, you know, this you know, trick. You know, like the people love. I came here and I talked to you, and they go, "Yeah, coach, what do you? Oh, you know, we found a secret." Then people love that, but it's not. It's like, show up, work hard. Yeah. And your boys are telling me about practices, and I'm like, 1% of the population would do that. That's why you're part of the 1%. Yeah. You know, the secret is there is no secret, I think, you know, and I think that's what everyone looks for. We've had so many people trickle in and out, looking for that special move, and they're looking for that special coach, looking for that special room. There is none. You know, it comes down to consistency and hard work. Yeah. It comes down to that, you know, building that confidence. Yeah, for sure. What if you could look back, what challenges have you faced, and how has that helped you find success as a man, as a coach? How's your adversity, and what adversity has you went through that's kind of pushed you into success? Yeah, so I mean, we've had, you know, definitely some roadblocks, you know, over time, and some speed bumps, we'll say. But, you know, one was whenever the whole thing happened at the public school I was coaching at, right? There was some stuff that went down, and you know, there were some situations that weren't handled, you know, the way that I would have handled them, and you know, it had to do with some of my family members, and it didn't go down the way that it should have. Right. And because I didn't take the schools back and I took my families back on it, you know, it definitely went a different direction than, you know, I thought, and then everybody thought. But honestly, it turned into a blessing. Yeah. You know, and then whenever my boys came to Bishop McCourt, and then I started to teach here at Bishop McCourt, then the PIAA gave us a sanction, And it was one of those things where, we look back on it and it was, I don't want to say a blessing because, some kids missed out on a chance of wrestling in states, but it made us stronger as a group.
Yeah.
It made us stronger. And I think even the PIAA sees that there wasn't like what people claimed there was. It was just one of those things where they kind of had to act on it.
Yeah.
There were, quite a few kids that transferred at the same time, but there was no recruiting.
Right.
There was none of that. It was just kind of like what the PIAA I think thinks now is they probably should have been looking at the school where all the kids were coming from. They almost look at it now like, man, we kind of looked at it opposite.
Yeah.
Instead of looking where they're going, why are they all leaving a certain school? And I think I think that's, if you look at it that way, I think that's where you'll find a lot of answers.
And that recruiting thing it's just a weird, it's a sticky subject because you're not recruiting, but if you do have good staff and good people around you, people will they're going to find that. Like, people are looking for good things, right? And maybe they're not coming just because of wrestling or football or whatever. They're maybe coming because the school's better, but yet they are drawn to this program. It's such a weird thing, but yeah, I think you're right. It's like, the focus should be like, why are these kids leaving this area? There's something going on there.
Right.
But for sure, so that's a great example of that. But what, during this whole time, and you've gone through these adversity, what keeps you disciplined and keeps you showing up? Because this is not easy.
Sure.
We're talking to soccer moms, we're talking to wrestlers, we're talking to all these people. How do you continue to have the discipline to do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, because when we first started, when we set out to do this, we did it as a family, and I said, like, I'm gonna go all in, and I tell my boys this, every now and then I'll remind them, like, hey, listen, I'm gonna give you 100%, but I expect it back, and my boys give me 100% every day. So I made that promise to them, and I said, from the start, when my dad passed away, I told my wife, I'm going to be the best, absolute best dad on the planet.
Yeah.
That's my goal every day. That drives me every day. Now I'm going to be the best coach I can be. I'm going to be the best husband, the best teacher, the best mentor, whatever it is. And, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I mean, there's no doubt that anyone you talk to is going to tell you I go all in everything that I do. And I think that, the kids buy into that. They see that. They see I grind with them every single day. I'm not going to tell them to do something that I'm not willing to do. My brother's not willing to do. The coaches aren't willing to do. And I think that carries, some weight with them.
That's huge.
It's one thing to sit there and tell them to do this, this, and this, but it's another thing to be there every 5 a.m. Be there, at 9:30 at night. Well, I'm there every day, no matter what, and consistency and character's big to me, and they know, and it translates right to them.
Yeah, that's huge for sure. What is your faith? How does it play into all this? How's that, I know that you guys are a faith school, but personally and developmentally, how does that play in?
Yeah, I mean, so we were, so my boys, when they were born, we were going to church, they were baptized, all that. And then, I mean, I'm just being 100% honest with you, and I'm sure this will probably relate to a lot of families. Life kind of like wrestling. We're wrestling on Sundays. We started to miss. And then it kind of got away from us. I'm not going to lie. There was a couple years there where we weren't going to church. Yeah. And then Bo was at the OTC, at the Olympic Training Center, and he was there with the senior level team. And this was a few years ago, and about 3 years ago at this point. And Jordan Burroughs, and at the end of one of the sessions, Kyle Snyder said, "Hey, tonight 9:30 in the the Oval Room, there's going to be Bible studies." And Bo. I tell my guys this all the time, including my sons every day. Take advantage of every opportunity. Yeah. You don't know how many you get. So Bo's one of those no matter what. So he said he went to the Bible study, had no idea what to expect, right? Mm-hmm. And he said it was amazing. Like JB was there and everybody was there. Mm-hmm. Everybody, and he said he loved it, you know what I mean? And they got everybody to participate and then he was hooked, and then he went to the next one, and next thing you know, he was at a couple Bible studies where it was like him and just Kyle Snyder. Or him and Jaden Cox. Yeah. And then he come home, he's like, Dad, next thing you know, like all of our, families are going to the same church, and we found this church, it's non-dominational, and it's just amazing. And now we're 100% back in. We go as much as we absolutely can.
It's incredible.
We were all there Christmas Eve together. Like when I tell you, like 3/4 of our wrestling team, it's like we meet at church, and then an hour later we're grinding in a gym together. And it's been great.
That's awesome.
And the greatest part about it is honestly, like in the last couple of years, I mean, Bo's had an amazing career. I mean, if you go back through from the time he was in first grade, I mean, he's been doing amazing things for a long time. But in the last year and a half, 2 years, his levels have jumped so much. in a sport of wrestling. And I think it has a lot to do with faith. It has a lot to do with him just understanding that it's all part of God's plan.
Yeah.
You know, when you lose or something gets thrown in your direction that you're not expecting, it's part of the plan.
Yeah.
You know, so we can go out there and wrestle fearless, just knowing that, you know, even in those losses, you know, you still got to give glory to God, you know, for getting those opportunities and just being able to be on a mat.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of our wrestlers wrestle that way. You know, I know Penn State was you know, they're big on gratitude and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? I see why the wrestlers can wrestle so free.
Yeah.
I mean, we do the same thing here, you know, and our boys are very thankful for every opportunity. Even yesterday, it was a little bit hostile, but still an amazing opportunity, and we're blessed to be a part of it.
Yeah. And across the board, the boys said that, you know, and Bo mentioned that. He's like, it's my faith is changed my wrestling. Yeah. And I, you know, because you want to know, like, how did you jump? And he says, I recentered myself, and it's on faith, you know.
The greatest part about it is his trips to the OTC recentered our entire family.
Wow.
So it's amazing, you know, like what wrestling has done so much for us as a family, as for Bo, for Keegan, for Melvin, for Jax, a lot of kids, but you know, what you don't see is those type of things.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, Kyle Snyder has made an impact on a lot of people wrestling wise.
Yep.
But he doesn't even realize the impact that he made on Bo, you know, just with his faith. And then Bo brings it back. And next thing you know, he recenters all of us. And next thing you know, like, we pull families in, and now they're recentered because of some, you know, Kyle Snyder indirectly did. And he didn't even realize he did it. Just being a great person. Man,
it's huge. It's huge. So much bigger than just wrestling.
Sure.
So if I'm writing the Coach Bassett chapter in Fighting for Success book, what would you want people to know about yourself and your formula for success and you as a person?
Yeah, I think I get this question a lot, you know, because again, I picked so many brains when I was a young dad coming up through, young coach coming up through. So I get a lot of young dads coming up to me like, what advice can you give me? And honestly, the best advice I would have for anyone, you know, a younger dad, a younger coach, is like, when you have a son getting into the sport, you got to surround them with great people. You have to, you know, they have to love what they're doing. Yeah. And if they love what they're doing and you're planting a seed, you know, like I've taken my boys to the NCAAs quite a few times. We've been to every big event that I can absolutely get them to, for the fact that I want to plant a seed. Like, this can be you. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely no reason why you can't be the greatest wrestler of all time. Yeah. There's no reason why you can't be an NCAA title or win an NCAA title or be on a world team or go win a world title. And I put this in their minds since they were little. You know, so when Bo won his first world title, he was already a world champ in his mind. He knew he could do it. Yeah. Whereas so many people get to those stages and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. But, you know, I'm constantly putting them around great mentors and great coaches. Yeah. Very selective on who I put them around. Sure. Very selective. You know, I can honestly tell you, my boys have been to very, very few clubs and very few clinics and camps. Yeah. You know, very selective. But the ones that, you know, that I believe in, we go all in. We're extremely loyal people when it comes to that.
Selective because the people that you're speaking over your son and influencing your children, that's important.
Very important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. As we kind of close this out, because I know you got things going on inside, and I appreciate you taking this time. If you're talking to a club or a bunch of kids that are maybe getting involved in wrestling, just involved in wrestling, what would you say for them to focus on?
Wow. So definitely, you know, loving it. Yep. Definitely building a group. A solid group of friends of, you know what I mean? Like, it would be, I'm not going to lie, sometimes it would probably be harder if we did our 5 a.m.s and it would just be, you know, me and my boys and I, you know, but like whenever, you know, we go downstairs and there's a whole steps filled with, you know, 15, 20 kids and they're eager to get in, it just motivates you. Yeah. It motivates me. It motivates my boys, you know, so it's one of those things. I would build that. I would build a family atmosphere. I'd do it 100. If I was to redo this whole thing, I wouldn't change much, you know, but obviously you make some mistakes. Sure. But what I would do is build the best family culture I can, you know, building a family first, you know, as far as all the families are, you know, they get along like they're, you know, long lost cousins and they do everything together. Then I would, you know, again, have like, you know, a group of friends coming up through together. Yeah. You know, I had Bo go out and pick a couple of his buddies, you know, when he first started wrestling, and that's some of his best friends and practice partners to this day. You know, and I would, and I would just, like I said, and as a dad, just do it together, grind together. My wife, she works out, like, and so my boys see it. Like, we eat clean together, we work out together, we live the right lifestyle together. We don't do that kind of stuff. Whereas some of these kids, they're amazing and they have amazing potential, but then they see their dads drinking and doing drugs, and they see their mom, like, maybe whatever it might be. I'm not talking down on anyone, but when you're doing it together as a family, it's much easier.
100%.
We want to be good role models for our kids, and we want our kids to be good role models to the next generation.
Yeah. Going on with that kind of book theme real quick. Sometimes, obviously, you wear a bunch of hats, and so your coach, your dad, your teacher, you're all these things. But if you were doing the dedication of a book that you wrote, and you're speaking to your wife, your children, what are you saying to them?
Just thank you, I guess. Thank you for the journey. Thank you for, you know what I mean? Just believing in I guess, the plan, and believing in, just, I don't know. I mean, honestly, like you were saying, I think the whole living, vicariously through your kids and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. To me, like, people look at that as this negative. To me, being a dad has been my absolute best accomplishment, hands down. And I wouldn't change it for anything. And every now and then, if you go above and beyond as a dad, and you love your kids and you're with them nonstop, and you get that sometimes. And I've heard it. Oh, Bassett's living. Well, hey, if that's what you call it, if you call me giving every ounce of my energy to my boys, hey, then call me that. Sure. I could care less. Sure. But at the end of the day, I would thank them. I would thank my wife for just being an amazing mother to my boys, being an amazing wrestling mom, being an amazing coach's wife. Because let's be honest, coaches' wives, they have to put up with a lot. Wrestling moms put up with a lot. And they, a lot of times they're the unsung heroes. They're the ones that we kind of forget about. But man, if my wife wasn't 100% on board, my boys wouldn't have this success, and I wouldn't have this program, wouldn't have this success, and I just wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. And as far as my boys, just I guess thank you for believing in what the plan was, and always giving me 100%. So I would just, a lot of thanks.
Yeah, that's good. I believe gratitude's a superpower, so that's a good one. That's really good. So as I have guests in here, I like to pray about the guests that's sitting in the seat, and I like to ask the Lord to give me a word or give me a character of the Bible that maybe would speak to the guest. And I've done that with you and all the other boys and men women that's been in the seat. And as I was praying about you, and I the character that God gave me, the man that God gave me, was Joseph, and I was asking in my heart, why Joseph? And so what the Lord gave me was Joseph was marked. He was someone that was set apart inside of a family that faced a lot of ridicule, faced a lot of troubles inside of his own family, faced a lot of troubles in the culture and the people around him, and was almost silenced. But because of God's plan and God's mark, he couldn't be silenced. But there had to be a belief inside him that the dream in which he had in his heart was reality. And that's a hard one, right? Because some things that we see and some things that we believe, it takes time.
Sure.
And we find ourselves in prisons. We find ourselves in struggles and in fights for our life. And the dream seems impossible. But because he held on to the dream, because he held on to what God had placed upon him, his family changed the world. His family got to partake in something that they would never been a part of because of him believing in the dream. And I see you as that person in your family that has that dream, that thing that God has marked on the inside of you, and that he's called forth into this world. And because the family, they are going to reap the benefits of that thing you've been pregnant with, but it's been birthed out in your family. It's been birthed out in the people around you, in your team. And what's so amazing about that is that it changed generations. And the Lord just kept imparting on me that thing that's lived inside you is not only your dream, but it will bring life to the dreams of many in generations. So man, thank you for that. Thank you for carrying that. And thank you, even whenever you're in the well or you're in the prison or you're in the struggle, that the dream kept you alive and kept pushing you forward. So I appreciate you, brother. I hope that resonates.
That was top notch.
All right, brother. Notch. Well, I appreciate you being here, man. I hope we can do this again. I know you're a busy man, but I'm just a fan of the family. I'm a fan of what you're doing as a man, that you're raising up the next generation of men and women to make a difference. And I'm a fan of that.
Thank you.
So, dude, keep fighting for success, brother.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
You crushed it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap, brother.
Thank you.